Australia's sudden decision to withdraw financial support and housing from a group of asylum seekers and refugees in Australia has drawn international criticism and formal complaints to 3 senior rapporteurs at the United Nations. It has also inspired a public pledge by the Victorian government to house, feed and financially support any refugees and asylum seekers left homeless or destitute by the Commonwealth's decision. Last month, the Immigration Minister, Peter Dutton, announced the imposition of a new, final departure bridging visa for refugees and asylum seekers brought to Australia from Nauru or Manus for medical treatment. Victoria steps in to help 100 asylum seekers. Cut off by coalition. Read more. So far, 63 asylum seekers and refugees across Australia have been issued with the new visa. They have had all government financial support ended and face eviction from government-supplied housing in 1 week. But it is understood up to 400 people, including families with infant children born in Australia, face having government support withdrawn in an effort to encourage them to abandon their protection claims or return to Australia's offshore detention islands of Manus and Nauru. In response, the Human Rights Law Centre in Australia and the Geneva-based Global Initiative for Economic, Social and Cultural Rights are set to send urgent submissions to 3 United Nations Special Rapporteurs on the right to adequate housing, on extreme poverty and human rights, on torture and other inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. The UN Special Rapporteurs hold mandates from the United Nations Human Rights Council, the powerful UN body to which Australia is seeking election in November. The joint submissions call on the rapporteurs to urge the Australian government to abandon the final departure bridging visas, reinstate housing and income support, and allow those seeking asylum to apply for refugee status in Australia. It also asks the rapporteurs to publicly condemn the government's actions. The purpose and effect of these government actions is to cut off vulnerable people from basic supports as a means of pressuring them to return to a place where they fear serious physical and/or psychological harm. They say the government actions risk rendering affected people homeless and destitute, as they will have no income support and little chance of finding work to provide for their food, housing, clothing and other basic needs. The submissions argue the government's imposition of the final departure visa is a breach of its international obligations under several international treaties, including the Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman or Degrading Treatment or Punishment. Lucy McKernan, Geneva representative for the Global Initiative for Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, told The Guardian rendering people deliberately destitute was a flagrant breach of human rights. Subjecting vulnerable people to deliberate destitution is morally and legally indefensible. It is also embarrassing to Australia as it trumpets its credentials as a candidate for the UN Human Rights Council.